All right. For our listeners joining us today on the Somewhat Podcast, man, we have a special guest, Falcon. He's a very old friend of mine from the early schooling days in Pakistan. And so we both are originally from Karachi, and I have him on the show tonight. And let's see what he has to say about the political situation happening in Pakistan right now and as the events are unfolding. So, Falcon, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Not bad, thanks, Saint, for having me on. And I've seen a couple of videos of you, all you guys who've been running this nice show. And yeah, I just felt like it's going to be good to contribute something from my side if I could. And hence, I'm with you. I'm with you guys here. Let's see how things unfold. It's quite a challenging time, and something that most of us, I think, we're lucky to see this change coming around in Pakistan in specific, and to be able to communicate and be vocal about this. Earlier during the days when we were in school, we never got this opportunity. We didn't have those forums where we could express ourselves and relate to the events and how they're impacting us. And I think now is thanks to social media, thanks to forums like these, where we could, come online,
So,
express ourselves,
so
and
let me cut in and what you just mentioned, like growing up, social media was like, let's just say, computers, home computers were a whole different story, and we didn't have the access to the internet growing up the way we do now. So that definitely, I agree with you, has given upper hand to the political situation in Pakistan. And the awareness is a lot more now with the youth than it used to be. People are more aware now. So right now, as we know, right now in the UK, the importer cabinet is meeting with Nawaz Sharif, and I saw a lot of the protests the British Pakistanis are doing. So what you got on that?
well, sadly, the UK government has a role to play in this. They have been kind of the role that they've been playing around for a very long time is that they've been protecting everybody. Whoever just kind of claims some sort of political asylum, they're here. Altaf Hussain is here. Nawaz Sharif are here. Benazir was here. Her husband, and the Zardari and the Bhutto family, they regularly come down here, and it's pretty much what exactly Dubai is also doing, what the Middle East is also doing. So, any names you have here, any politician, they have ease of access to Middle East, and specifically to the UAE. So that is something that that these nations, are uh, they do this to protect their own governments and to protect their own, I would say, control over these developing countries. And you see, it continues to happen. You can't do anything. You can't touch their assets, no matter how hard you try, no matter how hard any government tries in Pakistan to lay hands on their assets. We can't do anything.
So
And
uh, you are in the banking sector in the UK. That's your profession. So
yeah,
the assets we were talking about, how hard it is to get them. Would you like to tell us something about that area?
see, firstly, how the legal system in the UK works is so. With regards to these people having assets in the UK and in Europe in general, uh, it's not easy to touch them because these people are smart. They take protection from the system there is over here for law. Law is actually an industry in the UK. When I say an industry, it means that there are there are roadmaps to have a legal framework in place for everything, be it personal injury or claims, okay, be it mortgages or real estate, be it anything that you may, enter into any sort of contract or any sort of dispute. It's not easy to get along with or get out of uh, uh, the, uh, the the solicitors and the lawyers framework, without having any claims on your own self. So if let's say you want to access details about their assets, nobody's going to give that to you. Firstly, they'll fear the fact that there might be a court case coming onto them for any GDPR violation or any personal infringement rights or any data which is not you're not privy to that data and you get that information out. So people play with these loopholes over here, and if you ask me, I can find out what assets they would have, but I can't do anything more than that. We've got systems which where you can actually see the assets, see the ultimate beneficial owners. But then the politicians in Pakistan are smart people. They hire smart brains in these countries to do this job for them. Example: any politician in Pakistan who will be buying real estate in this country will not be buying assets under a UK established company. What they will do is they will layer the transaction. They will establish a company in BVI, in the British Virgin Islands, or any tax haven for that matter, Jersey, Isle of Man, Canary Islands, any other offshore jurisdiction that you can think of. Some very popular names are there, like BVI, especially, British Virgin Islands. So they would establish a company there. When you establish a company there, first thing you do is you have a proxy over there in that country who could be working for anybody. So you could be a money launderer, you could be a drug dealer, you could establish a company over there. Nobody asks questions because there is no restriction in those countries to to where you're bringing the money in from. Only now, I would say in the last 10 years, this started this clampdown started happening from it started from the US when they started implementing the Foreign Assets Tax Control Act (FATCA), and they started implementing that very heavily to tax US citizens globally, anywhere in the world. If there's a US citizen, he has to declare that I am a US citizen and I am liable to pay tax anywhere I am in the world. So through that act and through that regime, they started monitoring the flow of funds going into and out of each country, and that is where you started getting these WikiLeaks and the Panama Papers,
Panama Papers, yeah.
and then that is how you find out that you have assets. See, everybody who has been disclosed in the Panama Papers, it is known that they have assets outside the country. But can anybody do anything about it? No. Because those companies are run by proxies who would be residents or citizens in different jurisdictions and different countries. And you don't have any right to access their information. You could identify as Asif Ali Zardari or Altaf Hussain or Nawaz Sharif or Shehbaz Sharif or his
which
family
is
members.
which is exactly what Imran Khan was talking about in the United Nations, that he was kind of getting the international community there how hard it is to actually uh, get any kind of you know uh, government involvement to punish these individuals for money laundering these assets, and it's just so hard to get them back into the country. What's been stolen. So, yeah, and that's the reason I wanted to you to kind of put that in perspective for our listeners, because a lot of people in Pakistan, like they're the ones who support PML Noon, are like, oh, so why couldn't he prove anything? Why couldn't he prove anything? These are the problems. outside. That's why these guys don't keep anything in the country. That's the only way they can actually save what they've stolen. So yeah, I understand that completely. It's just, but so right now, uh, I was watching the Jhelum Jalsa he had and the Attack one just finished actually. I mean, one thing for sure, Imran Khan has brought the people out, not just the youth, the women, the children, the old, and everybody. Eh, You and me have never seen anything like that in Pakistan. Never. So, finishing that thought, I wanted to ask you. So, how do you see the military's involvement in all this situation? I mean, it's been said directly by a lot of people and indirectly, but knowing the history of Pakistan, I'm sure you have a better perspective, and I just want to hear that.
See, historically, you go back from the time when the country was in its own infancy. Military has played an important part in protecting the borders initially, and then came in the Sito and Cento pacts in early 50s and 60s when Pakistan participated and became a member of these two pacts with the US, and we got a lot of aid. Initially we were a part of the royal military. We were a part of the. If you look at Pakistan Army and the Air Force, it has in its roots and origins. You will see elements of the British rule. So Pakistan Air Force was called the Royal Pakistan Air Force until 1956-57, and in our military, the institutions that were set up were the Royal Indian Military College, and people who initially joined the army were known as Rim Collians. So it's in India. It's called a place Dehradun, and most of the generals that you have until the I think late 60s, and not just generals, even from all the forces actually, from our army, navy, and air force, all of them were graduates from Royal Indian Military College, Dehradun, because Pakistan did not have its own academy. So Kakul and other the naval establishments were done later. The first academy that came into existence in 1947 was the Pakistan Air Force Academy, and that was the Air Force was the only institution which Qaid-e-Azam personally visited when he was establishing it. So that's why we have those roots and those elements. We were a country in its infancy when we had conflicts with India, and at that time, to strengthen ourselves, any kind of support that we could get, we were taking that. The Middle East at that time was on its own. Just they had started oil exploration through the help of British and the Americans. So they needed our help. There was a time when our military and our air force and the army used to go to train people in the Middle East, and today you can see the difference. Where they are standing and where we are.
So,
As a matter of fact, just to go a little bit off track, Emirates Airlines was set up by three international airlines: Air India, Pakistan International Airlines, and British Airways. And all these three airlines donated aircraft to set up Emirates Airlines. And today you see where Emirates is, and today you see where Pakistan International Airlines is. So yeah, we've had this history, and we have this reliance on Western support for building our infrastructure and our arsenal. America has been supporting us at a time when some of the aircraft were one of the latest in the U.S. Air Force itself, and had been used recently in the in the Korean War in the late 50s. we were given those aircraft at that time. Some of them were supersonic aircraft, which the U.S. Air Force was only using for itself. We were given privileged access to those aircraft at then. And then, if you remember, in early 80s, F-16s came into Pakistan. We were the second country to
So
get F-16s after
Fad,
Israel.
I know you can pretty much write an encyclopedia on the aircrafts right now, and because I know, knowing you growing up, you were way ahead on the knowledge of all the fighter planes and everything. And I was kind of like on the second hand for that info, although I enjoyed all of that. So, getting back to the military role in changing governments in Pakistan. So,
Yeah.
right now, when Imran Khan said that the letter, the cipher that was dispatched by the ambassador in the United States to the different agencies, which said, like, who were they threatening? Like, I'm the prime minister. Who were they threatening? It puts that obvious and not so obvious question out there for the people who are smart. They know who the threat was to. If you don't remove him, then there will be serious consequences. But if he is removed, then we can go back to our old negotiations and whatnot. So who was a threat to? Do you think it was directed to the military?
Uh, if you Yes, as a matter of fact, it could potentially be a threat to the military. That is why they had to take some action to appease them. Um, you see, our the nuclear arsenal that Pakistan has. We've got to share that data with different agencies internationally. They have access to. They would know where our strategic and what sort of protection measures we have as a country, like Pakistan has as a country, to protect those assets. And definitely, there would there's something more to this story than just removing Imran Khan. Imran Khan he's a strong politician, and he's taken a stand. And any person who's taken stand in the past, you've seen what has happened with them. Bhutto, for that matter, his starting was very corrupt, but his end was only when he again said no, absolutely not, in a similar tone. Then the same thing happened with General Ziaul Haq. He was also removed. So and similar happenings have taken place in Iraq, when Saddam Hussein said no. Then also Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, when he said no, you've seen what has happened with him. So this is something that you would see. There is a covert kind of an action taken against such people,
But
and something would happen.
the one thing I think you will definitely agree with, none of those events, even in Bhutto's time, the populace did not come out like they have right now. And
In fact, it was
that's
the opposite. The
yeah.
the population came out in favor of Sheikh Mujib, in Bangladesh. That is why we lost Bangladesh, because I've done a lot of study on that. Has less to do with the Air Force, but it's got a lot to do with the overall political play that was happening in the country then. And while some schools of thought, blame the military for the debacle, but why all this happened and why we lost a part of our country in 71 was the whole rot actually started in mid 50s, and that is it just kept on growing from there. So if you read history, and I've done that research, and I have some very good books that were recommended to me by some very senior military officials, and I read those and I met them. So I found out it was surprising for me to see that this is how Pakistan lost a very critical part of its economic engine. Bangladesh was actually the driver for our economic growth, and we lost that. and any industries that you could think of, in the early 50s and 60s were all there. Paper, jute, rice, sugar, everything was there.
So
We
basically,
were relying on
the you would say the enemies that didn't want Pakistan to succeed, that was the first thing they had to separate Pakistan from.
yeah. You just bring in, you need economic hitmen to do the job. Once you do that, then that is exactly what happened. People started in Bangladesh. They used to start complaining that you are taking our resources, yet you don't give us jobs in governmental roles in West Pakistan. The Bengalis were they were very inclined to come and enter into governmental roles and to enter into in professional roles in West Pakistan, and they were never given access.
So
They
we
were
were
always
basically internally we were racist. That would be
exactly,
we were very racist towards the Bengali population, and they actually saw it pretty clear as day. They weren't
yeah,
giving the preference, and
yeah,
I when I read about that, the Pakistan studies we did in school, they was pretty heavily biased on one side,
yeah,
and not till I actually started living in the United States and getting older and wiser, they say, and the more I read, I saw the darkest chapter in the history of Pakistan, committed by us. So yes, it's a shame that we lost, that part of Pakistan, and now it's Bangladesh. But it is what it is. So going from that point, Pakistan has been targeted as to be just a mediocre country. Even then, we somehow managed to gain nuclear assets, which is a miracle in itself. But now, since we have it, we're more of a target till Pakistan is somehow just completely crippled. But
yeah.
I see the hope. The only hope I see right now, not I'm not gonna say Imran Khan, okay? He's just the guy in the right place at the right time, but it's the population what I'm seeing is out on the streets. The awareness, it's beyond any words I can put into perspective because I've never seen anything like it.
True. Especially the fact that they came out for somebody who's not in power. Normally you would
Yeah.
come out at the call of somebody who's the ruling, a part of the ruling elite, or who would who has an agenda, but somebody who's not in office. That person, and he's not even present there. He was not in Karachi when the Karachi jalsas were happening. He was coming in via voice chat or via video call, and people were out on the streets.
The
So
thing
yes,
is, yeah, I remember that night. My whole family. I mean, we remember that night when the vote of no confidence passed and he was taken down from power. It was one of the saddest nights I've spent. But I did call one of my friends in Karachi, and he's like, you have no idea what just happened. And I was like, what? Tell me. He's like, there are people out protesting, not just in Karachi, like Lahore, Islamabad. I mean, Peshawar. And when I, started looking at the YouTube videos, and I was like, wow, this is insane. At that point, there was this hope, even just a small glimmer, but it was there.
see, Saint, about the military's role in having this done. Yes, there has to be, because these corrupt lot, of who didn't even have a clear majority otherwise. What gave them the power to take such an action? And there was somebody supporting them. It just can't happen on its own. Who would advise? You see, if our courts start functioning at 12 a.m. At in the morning, then we wouldn't have millions of cases on hold that are there for a common man, who wants justice. Yeah, our country is known for malpractices and injustices, and I would say there would be scores of millions of cases, which are pending for dates and pending for witnesses which never see the light of the day. But here, just to remove one person, all the corrupt lot just gets their action approved, and the chief justice is there and his deputies are there and everybody is there just to get this action on. And definitely there has to be something behind it much bigger than that. They will not talk about it because when it comes to national sovereignty, they don't want to present a weaker picture to the Indian side. They always see Indians, while they're very professional, and in any walk of life, even in the US or in the UK, I find them thoroughly professional. Okay, but when it comes to expression of their might and their power and their the military, they take a stand very, and they look at Pakistan in a very condescending manner. And we never would want to present a picture wherein uh, you know uh, the military falls weak in front of the Indians. They have to keep up this act and appearances all the time, for which they require funding, for which they also require support from the Western powers. So probably it's that. And then also the fact that when Imran Khan came in power, the current army chief was about to complete his tenure in the next, I think, 7 8 months,
Yeah,
if I
he's.
recall. It was
I
about,
think he's supposed to retire on the 22nd or 26th of November.
yeah, and he gave him an extension, if you remember.
Oh,
He
this
gave
is
him an
yeah. This is prior to him giving extension. So his the extended extension is supposed to end
yeah,
this year.
yeah, but also remember the fact that when the top guy in the army or in any of the armed forces extends his stay, there are many hopefuls below him who want to replace him.
Right.
So that is where this whole power play starts, and probably that kind of revolt has happened, which is why you would have heard the news that a lot of ex-military officials went and met him and told him what he has done. So while he would have done something to prevent some bigger disaster that would have happened in Pakistan, it could be anything. It could be some
I think
accidental mishap.
we have to respect Imran Khan on one point for sure that even with all this against him, he has not directly implicated the military because in one of his jalsas he clearly said that the military is more important than myself for this country. If we don't have a strong
Exactly.
military,
The
Pakistan won't
sovereignty
be.
of
Yeah.
the country is more important. True.
So I think that is a really great message, even to wake up any silent or sleeping uh, integrity in the officials or the other brave men to like look at this man. He is he's just trying to support us while going through this, and like can we look at what's happening in the country? I think that's the perspective what we would want the military to look at. Like you have the population is in distress. I mean, is
Yeah.
this justifiable? What's going on to the people? The people are the one who are going to suffer. I mean, so that's what we all can just kind of hope for, basically. I mean, he's doing what he can. He's going to try and apply pressure till somebody says, "Okay, enough is enough."
See, one I would take this whole all this happening, especially coming in the month of Ramadan. This all this everything unfolded in the month of Ramadan. I think it's a blessing in disguise for the masses to see, and also for Imran Khan to see who he needs to have as his allies in the next run up. Because this was like a litmus test. He could have he could see who are the corrupt ones in his lot, and two of the main supporters in his party, Aleem, I think Aleem Dar and what's the name of the other guy?
And then Tareen Khan and
Jahangir Khan Tareen, JK, they
yeah,
call him JKT. Yeah,
yeah,
so Jahangir Khan Tareen and Aleem Dar, both these people had vested interests. One was a sugar mill. He was a part of the sugar mill monopoly, and the other was having uh, I would say, illegal land on the
Yeah,
Ravi River,
real
which he
estate.
wanted to legalize.
Yeah, he
So,
wanted
so
to.
Imran did not allow that.
Yeah,
That is where he found out that, oh, hold on, you guys were there from day one supporting me for Tariq Insaf, but here you had your own vested interest. So unless you are true to the cause, you can't survive. So that is where people started falling out, and how.
but you know what you just said. That the blessing in disguise. And the thing is that I agree with you there pretty much because his popularity, had he they left him to complete his term, there was no way he was going to win a re-election. His popularity was going down. Okay, and so what? So basically, they messed this whole plan against themselves by doing this vote of no confidence. You know, just jumping ahead and removing him, which now the whole pop. I mean, he's way more popular than he was.
Yeah,
Now he knows exactly who not to trust and who to work with, and the people. There's nothing that can change their views. I mean, that narrative is sold. It's just sold.
yeah,
So wrapping
yeah.
up, um, what any last thoughts? What would you like to see happening? I mean, of course, we want to see Imran Khan come back and take the country's
So
charge.
one good thing that Imran Khan has started doing is he's now recruiting people from the younger lot. If you look at
The
Pakistan,
non-electables. Yeah, they're
yeah. If you look at our demographics, for Pakistan, there are more. Interestingly, we are one of those countries where the younger generation, in terms of size and volume, we've got more of the younger lot because we've had a population explosion in the last, I would say, 20 years. So our those kids are now adults, and awareness is there, education is there more than our times. In our times, only few of the privileged ones could have access to private education, and especially English medium education, as they used to call it. And now almost every other child has access to social media, has access to the internet. They are aware of what is happening. They can see what is happening. Children are getting this kind of exposure. But this is one good thing. But one sad thing that I found out and I've seen is that most of the educated lot in Pakistan who have been in business, whose fathers had industries, these are people, most of them would be our friends in our social groups. What I've seen is that sadly these people are running the same rhetoric that Nawaz Sharif and the Bhuttos have been running on, that economic manhandling. How do you expect somebody to clear the damage which has been
yeah.
done for more than 3 decades in a term of not even 4 years? He didn't have the chance. From day one, when he came into power, we had a hung parliament, as we call it in the UK. It's called a hung parliament where nobody has a clear majority. He didn't. He was just above par. 52% majority. That is not enough to make legislation. That is not enough to make any changes or to bring about those legal changes that he would have had to single out these people and name and shame. Yeah, well, name and shame he was doing, but he couldn't lay his hands on them
No,
because there were
it's
people who did not allow that legislation to pass.
the problem is,
So
for me, that argument is baseless. I mean, you're telling me 60 years of corruption, you want him to fix in 5 years? Are you serious? I mean, just to even make that argument, it's just so moronic.
yeah,
He
and
couldn't.
and
I mean, he's dealing with the most insane corrupt government. Like, I actually have to give him credit for even attempting this feat. Do you you don't get that many crazy people in Pakistan to attempt to fight this system, which is insanely corrupt. I mean,
yeah,
United States, like when Obama came, the every problem of the United States was being blamed on the first Black American to take the president's seat. It was the same thing, same rhetoric. So you're, and I'm like, so America is about 100 years old or more, and now you're going to blame all the problems on the first black African American.
Yeah.
Are you serious? Yeah, so I can see that pretty well. Hopefully, I actually appreciate you coming on tonight. I know it's pretty late in the UK right now, past midnight, definitely.
Yeah.
And but it was great talking to you and getting some perspectives out there. I mean, we can do our best to keep the light on and not let it fizzle out, so people are aware, people know. If we keep the thought and the message going, maybe we can help somewhat toward helping Imran Khan in some way. Or my main goal is I want to see Pakistan get it on its feet and become what it's supposed to be. We have talent in our country; it's unlimited. The Pakistani Americans here, they're doing well. Same in England, the British Pakistanis. Everywhere we go, we can make a mark. Yet we have to do that in our country, and it is because of all this corrupt system. So
Yeah.
hopefully,
In comparison, if you if you look at India, Indians, they love to go back to their country. They don't want to live outside the country. They don't admire living in Dubai. I met a lot of Indians, in my tenure in Dubai, and they were like, "Dude, who wants to live here for long? I want to go back to India." This is what, and we were the opposite. We wanted to stay out of Pakistan as much as we could. So yeah,
I agree with you because I've known some really good Patel families here, and when they actually came to their retirements, they moved all their assets to India, and
mm,
they're living there. And thank
mm,
God they're living like kings.
exactly, exactly. This is what we miss. When we're living outside in the West, we are doing everything on our own. We don't have the luxury of having servants and maids, which we still had in the Middle East, and we definitely have in Pakistan. So yeah, that is something which,
When we say servants and maids, the Americans are like, "What?" And you are
yeah,
talking about slavery? Really? No, no. So yeah, I would say more like the British style butlers and maids and caretakers. They're paid.
exactly.
They're
Yeah,
not. They
yeah,
weren't working in the cotton fields and whipped and stuff. Anyways, but
yeah.
yes,
After all, we are the remains of a British Empire.
yeah, the British taught us well, I guess, and
Yeah,
it's still there. But yes, thanks for being on the podcast, Falcon, and we're gonna keep talking about this topic, and definitely see you with the other guys in the show. I wanted to get this done and get your perspective so we can add you to the main podcast with the other guys. And we'll talk some more about the Pakistan political situation because it's still happening. It's not
it is.
going anywhere. So
Yeah,
thank you for being on the show and take care.
my pleasure.
And I
Thank you,
will.
Saint. Thank you so much for having me on, and look forward to contributing more. Uh, Please excuse me for the bloopers, if at all there were any. But
No,
yeah, it was lovely to see you live after a very long time and interact with
yes,
you. So, yeah,
definitely looking forward to when you're going to visit here and we can get together again. But yes, thank you, Falcon, and we'll see you soon.
take care. Thank you so much. Take
All
care.
right,
Bye.
bye.